Hey everyone, this is the Spoon Dude back with another video. This time we're taking a look at my top 5 favorite figures from 2022. I already posted my list on Instagram, but a lot of you guys wanted to see me do a proper video on it, so here I am doing that video. What you see on screen right now, of course, is not any of my top 5 figures. These are 3 figures that I did like from last year, but they didn't quite make it to the top 5 list. You might be wondering why I'm doing a top 5 and not, say, like a top 10. And that's because last year, I honestly don't think I got that many figures that I could really do a proper, comprehensive top 10 list. I would kind of feel like I'd end up filling that list with some filler spots that are just there by default. And I don't think that's super interesting, so I just figured I'd whittle it down to the top 5 that I think are the more interesting figures to talk about. But these are just some of the few that just barely made the top 5. You could consider these like the top 6, 7, 8, or whatever. But in no particular order, these are 2 Marvel Legends Spider-Man figures that I got that I did quite enjoy, but they have their fair share of problems that limit them from being in the top 5. I already did a review on the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man in particular, so you can check that out. He's a really good figure, and part of the reason I'm even mentioning him is just because I made a video on it. It's a really nice Spider-Man figure, one of the nicer Marvel Legends ones, but as you'll see in the list, there's a particular figure that I think ends up beating this one. And being kind of a better version of what this is trying to be. And then same with the Marvel Legends version of the Symbiote Spider-Man. Didn't quite make the list. And I did also have here what might seem really random if you look at my channel. It's the SH Figuarts Super Saiyan 4 Goku. I don't really talk about Dragon Ball much on my channel. I did do like one review on a SH Figuarts Dragon Ball figure that got like 0 views. They're cool figures, and I did want to mention him, but ultimately not in my top 5 most favorite, because as you'll see, I have a very obvious bias in terms of what kind of figure I like to buy. So without further ado, let's go on to the actual top 5 list. I'm considering an assortment of factors, but really it comes down to just how much fun I think the figure is, and of course what I think the value of the figure is compared to its price point, something you'll see as I get to the number 1 in the list. But anyways, starting the list at number 5, the Mafex Classic Spider-Man, the number 185. And of course, this figure is just a repaint of the Mafex 75 comic book Spider-Man figure, which is one of, if not my most favorite figure in my entire collection. So if I didn't already have that figure, I would have probably ranked this figure higher on the list. But because it is just a repaint, I didn't really feel like giving it too much credit and making it like the number 1 figure of the year. Not to mention, this particular figure, the one I got, ended up having a really significant problem that I didn't even experience on the original version of the figure, which kind of soured my experience on it a little bit. Not enough for me to hate this figure or regret buying it. You can see it's still on the top 5 list. It's just a problem that kind of bumped it from being number 1. And that's, of course, the whole paint rub issue. The fact that within like a week of owning the figure, I got significant paint rub on the back of his waist and the shoulders. Really sucked. Now, of course, you'll see on the figure he doesn't have that anymore, but that's because I took the time to repaint those spots to try and get rid of the paint rub, which was honestly not something I really minded doing that much at the end of the day. I don't mind getting my hands dirty and kind of maintaining my figures and fixing them like that. Honestly, sometimes that can be part of the fun of owning figures, but you know, on a more objective kind of level, that you really shouldn't have to fix your, you know, expensive import figures, and they should just be, you know, good straight to go out of the package. And that's a significant reason this figure isn't number 1. You'll also notice I did a head swap on this figure with the Marvel Legends Integrated Suit Spider-Man head to get that more classic John Romita Sr. flavor. Something that I think really suits this figure well, this particular color scheme. And of course, I've even mentioned that in my review, that this figure probably should have just come with a head like this out of the package. So yeah, for those reasons, this isn't number 1, but it is still a good figure that I'm really happy to have. It's the one I've been posing and playing around with most recently, since of course this is the newest figure on this list. So yeah, he's a good figure. I'm happy to have him, but he did require some kind of maintenance and work on my end for it to be as enjoyable as he is now, and that kind of limited it from being higher on the list. And then at number 4 is another Mafex Spider-Man. This is the Mafex Black Costume Symbiote Suit Spider-Man. I don't remember what what particular label they gave him on the package. But yeah, the black costume version of Spider-Man in the Mafex style. It's a really awesome figure, one I was definitely anticipating. And he's pretty much everything I expected it to be, which kind of meant that he wasn't quite as, novel as I was kind of hoping he'd be. Once I got it, feels very much like the original Mafex Spider-Man. Of course, most of it is a brand new sculpt since it has the sculpted spider logo. It doesn't have the same sculpted details as that one. So it is a new figure, but not unlike this one. It feels very just familiar handling it. And I've surprisingly found myself not really posing and playing around with this one as much as I thought I would. But that being said, it is still a really good figure and one I'm very happy to own. And I figure it's probably the best version of the symbiote Spider-Man that you can get. I easily think this one beats the Marvel Legends one, of course. The Marvel Legends one is a good value for its money, but because it's on that retro style body, it has a lot of problems that kind of just limit it from being a really great release for its price point. Whereas this, of course, it's on the more expensive premium side, so it's of course expected that it would beat the Marvel Legends, but yeah, it does a good job. I love the paint shading, love the sculpt, and it's it's a good figure, and that's why it sits comfortably at the number 4 spot. But at number 3 is not a Spider-Man figure, but a Spider-Man adjacent character, is the Marvel Legends Venom from the King in Black 2-pack. And honestly, this figure is really good, and one I find I keep going back to. This is easily my favorite Venom figure. It's not one I thought I was gonna get, but I ended up getting it as a gift actually, which is part of the reason why I really love it so much. There's a lot of sentimental value to it, of course. So if that person happens to be watching this video, thanks so much for it. It's a really awesome gift, and I'm eternally grateful. But yeah, it's such a really awesome Venom figure. Of course, it's reusing the movie Venom figure, so it uses that movie sculpt. So if you had that movie Venom figure, I imagine a lot of this would just feel very familiar. I never bought that Tom Hardy Venom figure, so for me, this was entirely brand new. And just getting my hands on it, the articulation is really nice, surprisingly nice. You can really get this guy into really dynamic, like almost McFarlane-like poses with the articulation. Just like real quickly here, you can see with that ab crunch, you can get him crouched down, and it looks really great. So being able to get a Venom this articulated was awesome. I love the movie sculpt of it. It gives him the right kind of texture I'd like to see from a Venom figure, that kind of more realistic design rather than the more kind of smooth comic book look. I actually really like the head sculpts of this figure, and even the accessories of the wings were pretty cool. And the Null figure he comes with is pretty sick as well. And that's why it's at number 3. I can't really separate it from the sentimental value it has to me, and it's my list, so I can put it wherever I want on that list. And I'm putting it at number 3. It's an awesome Venom figure, one of the best figures I got last year. And at number 2 is the Sentinel Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse Peter Parker figure. This is a really great representation of Spider-Man from the best Spider-Man movie. The sculpt of it is fantastic, looks straight out of the movie. I love the accessories of it, the fact that you can swap between the younger, leaner Spider-Man from the start of the movie to the older Peter B. Parker is a really cool gimmick, one that makes having this figure worth owning, even if you already have the other versions of the Spider-Verse Peter B. Parker, like say the Mafex or the Marvel Legends, since you can pose this guy alongside those other Peter B. Parker figures. And just the accessories of it were really fun. You get some really cool movie-specific stuff, and as a big fan of that movie, I really appreciated that. That being said, it is a really expensive figure, and that's not to say you don't necessarily get your money's worth, but it is just one that was kind of a hard pill to swallow, and I imagine would make it not the most accessible Spider-Man figure, for all collectors. It's still one I recommend getting if you're a big fan of the Spider-Verse movie or a big Spider-Man fan, but yeah, that price point definitely hurt it, and the fact that you had to get it with the gargoyle base, kind of hurt as well. Don't get me wrong, I actually like the gargoyle base, and I use it as the centerpiece for my Spider-Verse display, but I think I would have probably rather have the figure not come with it and be a lot cheaper. But as far as I remember, all releases of this guy, even without the base, ended up being over $100 plus dollars. So it was an expensive figure, and that's pretty much the main thing stopping me from saying it's the best of the year. Because what I think is the number one figure from last year, both for playability, the fun factor of it, the accessories, but really the value of it from its original price, is the Marvel Legends Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man. Now sure, this is on just a smooth, blank body that Hasbro can just reuse. Now sure, this is on a smooth blank body that Hasbro can just reuse for any other character, compared to the unique sculpts of these import Spider-Man. He doesn't have, some of the crazier accessories you might find with, say, the Sentinel Spider-Man or this, unmasked head that you get from the Symbiote Spider-Man. But in terms of a good base figure, a good basic Spider-Man figure, this pretty much has everything you need. Like, the bare essentials, this has it all. It has a really good assortment of hands for all the, basic Spider-Man poses. It even includes gripping hands, which Hasbro doesn't normally include. The build of the new body mold is really nice. It's superior to what Hasbro previously pumped out with the retro body and even the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man. For all the improvements this figure made to its body mold, I still think there were some proportion issues that I think were pretty much fixed with this one. I tend to think the build of this figure is much nicer than what we get with this one or the old retro Spider-Man. And really, it comes down to the articulation. There's some choices Hasbro made that I would have preferred if they, maybe went a different direction. But once you actually start getting it in hand, putting him to different poses, it's unreal. It can completely compete with what these import Spider-Man figures tend to do. And you have to remember, this is a $20 figure. It's way cheaper, way more accessible to get than, say, the Sentinel version or the Mafex version. And because it is a Hasbro, toy sold on, like, toy aisles, he's a lot more durable feeling than, say, the Mafex or the Sentinel. You can just start posing this guy without having to use, like, kid gloves and being super wary about it. And just getting into poses is super fun. This is a figure I could not put down ever since I got it, like, in the later part of 2022. Once I got it, it was pretty much my pocket figure the rest of the year. I loved just fiddling with this figure and getting him to various poses and doing all sorts of crazy things. I haven't really posted much of him on Instagram or anything, but rest assured, this was a figure I've been fiddling around with the whole time. The only real issue I had with this figure was that it didn't have the toe articulation, but that was a simple enough swap, switching out the feet with the Renew Your Vows version. So once you do that, it's pretty much a perfect Spider-Man figure to pose around with. Again, yeah, it doesn't have the sculpted webbing or some of the accessories these more expensive ones have, but the fact that it was just at the regular Marvel Legends price point, I think makes any of those issues pretty forgivable. And I would put this version of the figure above any of the other releases Hasbro have subsequently done on this body mold, like the animated series or the Amazing Friends 3-pack, just because this one is the most easy to get version. I still haven't gotten the animated series or the 3-pack version, since those are a little bit harder to get, more expensive, on the secondary market or just exclusive or whatever. I think the fact that this one is just a regular retail release as part of a regular wave of Marvel Legends makes him kind of a more ideal figure to get. So that also, I think, puts him over this one. The fact that this was in a 2-pack meant like you had to pay like upwards of $50 to get him, but this guy just around $25 and you're good to go. So yeah, that is why I think the Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man figure is the number one figure of last year. Even if I didn't do the toe articulation, I think I would still put him at the top of the list just from value alone. So yeah, that's my top 5 favorite figures of the year. Let me know what you think of the list in the comments below. Let me know your list in the comments below. What was your favorite figure from last year? How much do you include the price when you're figuring out, the value of a figure in your collection? Maybe like once you already bought it, you don't really care about the price and it's just about, how fun it is to have that figure. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on all that in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos, and I'll see you in my next one. Thanks for watching.